welcome back again to the channel. I thought that again today I'd discuss another race that I had done a couple of years ago that again, it's the 2-year anniversary of my running it. So back in August of 2018 I had started really doing a lot of trying to do races outside of New York State where I live. So as I mentioned in my last video, I went to Rockport, Massachusetts to run a mile, a 5K and a half marathon there. A couple weeks later, we drove out to Cleveland, Ohio to run the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame half marathon. Now, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame half has nothing to do with the Rock and Roll Marathon series. They're totally different entities, but it was one of my, at the time, it was one of my favorite races that I had done for a number of reasons. Number one, I of course had to wake up early to go down to the start line, and in doing so it was still dark out, so the Hall of Fame was still lit up like nighttime, which was really cool looking. I've been to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame a couple times prior, but never at night. It was always during the day. So I never got to see what it looked like at night, so that was a really cool thing. And they had music playing, and I just kind of wandered around, checking things out, and waiting for the race to start. So, when the race got started, it was finally light out, for one. And I ended up being like right near the front of the pack, like right near the start line when it started. So I was surrounded by people that went a lot faster than I normally run, which can be beneficial and detrimental to a runner. I've had instances where it's pushed me, like in this instance, where it pushed me to the point where I ended up getting a new PR. That's usually actually what happens. But sometimes I end up, if I push myself too hard, you know, I'm running around people that are doing more like 5-minute miles or something, and I'm pushing myself and running and looking down at my Fitbit and seeing I'm doing 6-minute miles or 5-minute mile pace. And I just start thinking, I hope I can keep this up, or I need to slow down, otherwise I'm not going to finish this with a good time. So that was kind of, and it kind of too, because I had my music going, my own music going, and a couple of songs came on almost immediately that were songs that always get me going. So right out the gate I was running pretty much full bore. And the course pretty much, like I said, the start line, which also then becomes the finish line, is right in front of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Museum, which is really cool, especially, you know, when you got the pro shots going on. And unless things have changed, they were free race photos. The only issue being that you have to go on their website and manually look through all however many thousand photos they take to find the ones with you. And when I found that out, I was like, well, it's nice I don't have to pay for it, but it'd kind of be worth it for me to have someone say, here are all your photos. Which I've had other races where they did that for free. So I don't know why that if anyone from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame half is watching, look into doing something like that. It's nice that the pictures are free, but it'd be nice too that, you know, you're not spending an hour or two combing through every single photo to find you. So anyway, the majority, well, the whole race is in the city of Cleveland. You never get out of Cleveland, but you're kind of going through the roads around the city, and then eventually you hit a spot where you're going, it's a straightaway, and you're going through the middle of a park in the middle of the city. And the name of the park, of course, now escapes me. I'll probably put a description somewhere if I figure it out. But that was some really nice scenery. It was pretty much, I think, downhill at that point, and if it wasn't, you were running pretty flat. So I was able to keep really good pace during that portion. Where some of the rest, you know, you're turning right down this street, and then turning left down that street, and etc. But you hit that spot, and it's pretty much straight away, and you've got, you know, you're going through a park, so you got good scenery with you. Other people, you know, out for their morning walks or runs, you know, out walking their dogs, pushing the baby strollers, etc., that just happen to see you go by. I think there were some, like, museums or, like, zoos somewhere nearby, because I was seeing signs for stuff like that. Like, there was, like, a dinosaur exhibit or something, I think, somewhere that they were advertising along the way. And so that was pretty cool. And then once you get through that park, you end up, I think you kind of cross under the I-90, or you cross over one or the other, and you end up running on the coastline of Lake Erie, which is also really cool. You know, seeing the waters out there, seeing people on their boats. It was a really cool thing to see. And you're pretty much the last, so the first, I'd say, quarter or so are through the city. Then you've got those 2 or 3 miles where you're running through the park, and then the remainder is running along Lake Erie, which, if no one's been to Cleveland, never been to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Museum, it is right on the coast of Lake Erie. So that's why you're going along. And you're running like alongside I-90, or some, maybe not I-90, but definitely some highway. Because you've got like the fence there, and you're on the walking path, and here's the water, and then you see all these cars speeding by on your left. So you're running down there, and then ultimately you end up crossing the finish line, like I said, right in front of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Museum. Some other cool things with the race is they do, much like the Rock and Roll series, have people along the way playing music to keep you going, which was nice. They're all like local groups doing that. And then when you get to, well, when you get your packet, you actually get, I think it's, you get at least, no, you get one ticket for free entrance into the museum, which is really cool. So, like I said, I've been there a few times before, but they're always changing out the exhibits in there. So you can go there a few times and not see the same things twice. I mean, there will be certain things that are always the same, but they try to change things up a little bit for people who might, you know, enjoy going a few times every few years. So that's a nice little perk. Like I said, you get the free pictures, but honestly, that was at the time that was my favorite race that I'd ever run. Up to that point, well, maybe not absolute favorite, but definitely in the top. Because there's another one that I did in New York City that I always kind of consider a favorite of mine that I'll get into another day. But I did that one before I did the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So I've really liked that race. Like I said, running through the park, running along Lake Erie, starting and ending right there in front of the museum. It's not a terribly big race. You know, it's got a decent amount of people, but it's not in the thousands, it's more in the hundreds. So, if you're someone who's not too keen on, you know, huge crowds, that's definitely one to look for. But two, I ended up, that was my fourth PR, I think, because I had done my initial Syracuse half marathon, then I did the Erie Canal race, and the Erie Canal half, and got a PR at that, and then I did a few more that I didn't get PRs at, but then December 2017, I got the PR by a few seconds in New York City, and then PR'd again at Erie Canal. So yeah, this was the fourth time I had gotten a better time. So that was another big thing for me, for why I enjoyed that race so much. Since then, I ended up, of course, PRing a few more times, and when you get a PR, it tends to influence your feelings on the race. I'll say that. I mean, generally speaking, if you get a PR, it means you're really enjoying yourself. So, you're enjoying the scenery, you're enjoying the atmosphere, your fellow runners, you're feeling good, etc. So, but, yeah, definitely if you can, when you can, check out the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame half in Cleveland, Ohio. It's still one of my top favorite half marathons for the experiences along the way. So definitely check it out if you can. Thank you for watching. I'll do a few more of these. Well, a few more. I'm pretty much planning on going through all the races that I've done. Oh, that was another thing. The medal for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame half. The medal at the time was my favorite, and possibly still is. If it's not my favorite medal, it's definitely up there in medals, much like the race itself. So anyway, again, thank you for watching. Look out for another race discussion video. I'm going to go through all the rock and roll races that I've done. the Rock and Roll Marathon Series races that I've done. Especially because some things have been going on with that company, and I wanted to make a video just discussing some of the things going on there, and things that I think may be the reasoning behind what's been happening. Like, I don't know anyone in the company, but just from my observations and things I've seen online, just, my thoughts. So, but I want to go through all those races on their own first, and then I'll do that video. So, look forward to those. There will be 5 or 6 of them. So, again, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. Link for my Patreon is down in the description. I'll also leave a link for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame half marathon, if anyone wants to save it to look at it later. So until next time, remember, we're in it for the long run. Peace and love.